The train depot was a place of departures, filled with the metallic scent of iron tracks, the hiss of steam, and the quiet sorrow of goodbyes that rarely made themselves loud. Under the vast canvas of a sinking sun, Eleanor stood clutching her suitcase, as though the last remnants of her strength were sewn into its handle. She wasn't running from a crime nor chasing a dream, but something more complicated, the invisible weight of choices she never asked to make. Life in her small town had been an endless cycle of obligations, of faces that knew too much about her, of whispers behind curtains and eyes that burned with judgment. She had decided it was time to leave it all behind. The depot was her escape hatch, the train her vessel, the unknown her only promise of freedom. Boots clattered across the wooden planks, voices called out last-minute farewells, and the whistles, cries sliced through the air like a warning to anyone who hesitated. Eleanor stepped forward, her heart pounding like the pistons of the engine before her. Then came the sound of spurs, slow, deliberate, carrying the rhythm of someone who walked with neither rush nor apology. She glanced over her shoulder and saw him, a cowboy weathered by sun and storm, his broad shoulders wrapped in a dust-worn coat, a hat casting a shadow over eyes that seemed older than the land itself. He wasn't just looking at her. He was seeing her, as if the rest of the depot had dissolved into dust and only her silhouette mattered. Eleanor stiffened, her grip tightening on the suitcase. But before she could speak, his voice, low, deep, threaded with the patience of someone who knew the long roads of loneliness, rolled through the space between them. "Your journey ends with me." The words rooted her in place, not because they were a command, but because they carried the weight of destiny, as though the earth itself had chosen this moment. The whistle screamed again. The train lurched forward, and for the first time, Eleanor realized that escape wasn't always about running. It could be about stopping in the exact place fate intended. The depot emptied as the train pulled away, carrying with it strangers whose paths she'd never know, but leaving Eleanor standing at a crossroads she hadn't expected. The cowboy didn't move closer. He let the silence stretch, the only sound the distant rumble of steel fading into horizon. Something about his restraint unsettled her. He wasn't a man accustomed to chasing, but one who believed that the right souls met in the right hour. Finally, Eleanor broke the silence, her voice sharper than she intended. "Why me? Why now?" The cowboy tilted his head, the brim of his hat hiding a faint smile. "Because every road I've ridden has led me here, to this depot, to you." His words weren't laced with charm but conviction, and conviction was far more dangerous. Eleanor's chest rose and fell with a storm of emotions she'd buried. Fear, longing, defiance, hope. She had imagined a future where she was free. Yet what if freedom was not the absence of bonds, but the presence of someone who made you forget the chains? She searched his face for deceit, but all she saw was the raw honesty of a man who had carried solitude like a saddle for too many miles. The depot lanterns flickered on, casting their glow on weathered wood and iron rails, while the evening breeze carried the scent of dust and wildflowers. Eleanor felt her suitcase grow heavier, not because of what it held, but because of what it represented, her refusal to believe she could belong. Slowly, deliberately, she set it down. The sound echoed like a verdict. The cowboy stepped forward then, each movement measured, his boots striking chords on the planks. When he reached her, he didn't touch, he didn't demand. He simply tipped his hat and whispered again, softer this time, as though it was not a declaration but a vow. "Your journey ends with me." And for the first time in her life, Eleanor did not feel like running. The depot became more than a station of departures. It was the birthplace of a story larger than the rails, larger than the horizon, larger than either of them had dared to imagine. She lifted her gaze, eyes locking with his, and without speaking she knew she wasn't leaving. Not tonight, not ever.